The discovery in 1967 of Golondrinos, an immense vertical limestone shaft, was the stimulus which turned the attention of cave explorers throughout the world to Mexico. This dramatic 1,200-foot free hanging descent was an indication of the potential for cave discoveries on the epic scale.
Slack.
The 1982 speleological expedition is the first major British-based group to search for caves in Mexico. First reactions from Ian Watson.
When we actually first got down the ladder, it's just in a wilderness. You're having to actually search for the way on, rather than it being so obvious. The chamber is actually so big that you can't actually see the exit passage.
This column here.
Dick Ellis.
Obviously, this cave had carried a lot of water in the past.
It was very dead and dry, and the further you got into it, the bigger it got, and it really had the attraction to a cave of immense possibilities. This was a place we'd heard about, and as we went into it, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
The column there gives a good impression of the size of this passage. Must be about 25 metres.
At the end of Kramsky's chamber here.
Yeah. When it's taking you 5 and 10 minutes to get across a chamber, and that you can only just see the sides of, compared to the size of passages in Britain, there's just no comparison whatsoever.
Oh dear. After that big stuff. It opens up again.
I can see my Wellington's getting full here. Oh, that's pretty wet, Dick.
Steve Foster.
The passages were boring off steeply, and we knew beyond the area that we could get to at the present time of exploration, the cave continued going much deeper, but we had a density of formations that was unheard of anywhere else in the world. And if this was a sort of feeder that we were going to encounter into, we really had potential of finding some very, very big caves.
No, unfortunately.
I think probably another month or so before it'll go down.
2 miles in, the San Cristobal cavern ends in a sump pool. But this initial exploration dramatically underlines the potential of the area.
I think there's a couple of pictures in there.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Base camp is situated at 7,500 feet on the outskirts of the small town of San Cristobal, 200 miles from the Guatemalan border. The team of 20 is predominantly British, with members from the USA, Austria, Holland, Belgium and New Zealand. The team now split up into several reconnaissance parties to investigate the hills surrounding the San Cristobal plateau in the hope of finding new cave entrances. The recce parties will base their efforts on the little information available from caving journals, maps of the area, and aerial photographs. In addition, there is the knowledge that the rain and floodwaters, which sink into the San Cristobal basin, must emerge 5,000 or 6,000 feet lower down. The inescapable conclusion is that the area has the potential for the deepest caves in the world. Valuable information about cave entrances comes from the local inhabitants. Cave entrances are numerous, but often hidden in the bush. The majority are likely to be blocked with boulders and debris, but only one is needed for a breakthrough.
How's it look?
Deep. Long way, right? 30 meters.
Sí.
30, 50 meters.
30 metros.
Sí. Yeah, buena. Buena cueva.
Sí, cómo no?
Sí.
Sí. Small stream come in, but no go really.
What's the general wall situation?
Pretty loose. Pretty
Mostly
muddy.
breakdown?
No, it's clean washed shaft, but the rocks are very highly shafted.
All right.
It's about 75 feet to a slope, and then it goes down on a rocky, bouldery slope covered with tree trunks to a little hole. And I dug at the little hole, and it revealed a small chamber which I couldn't get into.
This pitch looks about 60 or 70 feet. We'll just might be a bit more than that. And there seems to be a dark hole down
Steve Foster.
Dave Newson had discovered this cave, situated in a very interesting area, quite high above the San Cristobal area, about 2,400 metres. It looked to be in a good place, but there seemed to be very little enthusiasm in the team to go up there. Some of us had been out every day for 3 weeks. It was starting to get a bit tiring. We had tremendous hopes for this cave. Dave and I pushed down 150 metres, and we could see darkness below, and we could make out what looked like a passage continuing off. And we finally thought we'd actually done it and we were going to get into something big. Another 150 metres depth and we would have been into below the level of San Cristobal Depression, and we could have been into some really big stuff. 5 metres further down, we hit the floor of the chamber. This water, a small amount of water disappeared into the floor in a complete and utter blockage. So this was another very promising lead, finished prematurely.
The Indians living in isolated mountain villages often regard the arrival of the gringos with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. But here, the team are met by a welcoming crowd and invited to observe an important religious festival.
Adiós, corazón santo, limpide dulce fuente, do bulle mansamente, virtud y amor y paz.
The festival is essentially a fertility rite, conducted entirely by the men, and is a strange mixture of the pagan, predating the Mayan civilization, and the Roman Catholic, brought from Spain by the conquistadores in the 16th century. The flower-decorated loads weigh some 60 pounds and will be carried over 10 miles down steep terrain to the coastal plain where the festivities continue into the night. Kanya, a near 100% proof firewater of local origin, takes its toll.
Sit in the front of the truck. Come on.
Just tuck it steady. Try and bridge yourself well down away from them boulders on your left.
The seemingly interminable prospecting continues. Over 100 shafts are descended in 3 weeks without success. Now Dick Ellis, Ian Watson and Mark Robson discover a cave that obviously engulfs a large stream in the wet season. It is known by the locals as La Laguna and is the most exciting prospect yet.
I think this is the way on here. I've got opened up a hole between the boulders. Can actually see the top of the pitch.
Yeah, well, I can see it from the side here, but it's far too tight to get in.
Yeah, well, this'll go, but there's one big block in the way. We'll have to dig it out.
Okay.
All right, Ian?
Yeah, I'll just keep the rope fella tight. I'll just start get this crap out of the way. Just this back now.
Do you think if we give it a little bit of a pull, it might help?
Yeah, just try it.
Okay.
All together.
Yeah. She's moving.
She's
Right,
loose.
now
She's
steady.
loose. Keep rocking it rather than just pull.
Okay. Up, down, up. That's it.
Right, I think she's ready for going through.
Watch those other rocks, Ian. You're going to chock it against them. Right, it's going through.
She's going.
Steady.
Dick Ellis.
Here was a shaft that was perched maybe 3,000 feet above the risings, which we knew about in the valleys below.
I think we're in, Dave.
Great.
This whole thing looked very exciting. You get a feeling for a cave. This one looked to be the one, and we rushed down it. You know, everybody was there and keen. We'd had a lot of disappointments.
Ian Watson.
Some of the caves we'd worked hard to find weren't starting to pay off the sort of potential that we knew that was there. So when we got into the Laguna, we thought we'd really cracked it, and this was going to be the big one.
I don't look good at all.
When the thing closed down finally, it was just another blow. I mean, this was not really what we'd expected when we came to Mexico. We expected huge, great caves just readily available, but it wasn't to be. I mean, this area of Chiapas has all the potential, but this wasn't to be the one.
Right, chokes up, damn it!
Para el zoológico. La fauna mexicana.
Rodolfo,
Oye, tequila.
Que moje el bombón.
Tequila, ¿cómo no? Tequila. Brisa, tequila.
One feature of life in Mexico that everyone enjoys is traditional Mexican hospitality. On Christmas Eve, the team is initiated into the subtle rites of tequila and mezcal by local caver and photographer Vicente Kramsky.
Estamos con los...
Let's go down here, man.
Pretty rough.
Mexico, mucho bueno. ¡Viva México!
The hard realities of the expedition have now to be faced. After 4 weeks in the field, nothing of significance has been discovered. Ian White.
Okay, we're going to discuss what we're doing for the next month. We've been here for a month already, and you know, we had a slow start. Christmas is just gone, so you know, we've got to work out the areas of best potential, split ourselves up into groups and do something constructive. I personally think that above the hill there, at the back of this range, is the best place. It's got the deepest depth potential. We know where the water sinks. We're going to go and see the resurgence this week, and we've got 2 60-metre pits that haven't been descended yet.
The thing is really, on general strategy, do we keep 2 areas going, or 3 areas going, or 4 areas going?
No.
Or do we concentrate all our efforts on one?
I think we've got to decide and concentrate our efforts. Otherwise, we're just skinning the surface of lots of different areas.
I think it's going to be a lot easier to get up early one morning, say 6 o'clock, go and do a 12, 14-hour day and come back at night, and then have the next day to relax and do it every second day like that.
Well, another party
rather than carrying all your water down. You've got to carry water.
Yeah, but for a going cave.
Once the cave goes, you can bivouac in the cave.
With the pressure now on, and only 4 weeks left before the team have to return to England, a light aircraft is chartered to survey the surrounding hills. What immediately becomes obvious is the scale of the problem facing them. The mountains surrounding the San Cristobal Basin are densely covered with scrub and trees, and even from the air, the vast majority of cave entrances are hidden from view. San Cristobal lies in a closed valley with underground drainage providing the only natural outlet. 10 years ago, a 2-mile-long tunnel was constructed through the mountain to alleviate flooding in the valley. The river must have flowed through many miles of cave passage to emerge over 5,000 feet lower down on the coastal plain near the village of San Lucas. En route, tributaries from the mountain above will have joined the main river. The present river emerges from the tunnel only to sink once more. Coincidentally, it regains its old underground course and rises as before at San Lucas. A two-man reconnaissance team is dispatched to San Lucas. As it has proved impossible to enter the cave system from the sinks, perhaps a breakthrough can be made from the lower end. The main river rising is a dead end, but local information indicates many other promising possibilities, and a large group is sent to San Lucas to investigate. But the route to the coastal plain passes a cave of international reputation. El Chorreaderos was a Mexican-Canadian discovery described as the most exciting river through trip in the world. Austrian Christina Scholler descends the 160-foot entrance canyon on a single rope to the river below, where she will meet up with New Zealander John Baitup.
And lots of waterfalls, little ones and big ones and small ones. You can just jump or slide, and I mean it's really that what the caver makes happy. It's all in that cave. You just go down this big entrance drop, and after water, the water just carries you on through the cave.
It's an amazing trip. It's about three kilometres of swimming water passage and waterfalls, and it's really incredible, really. About 10 drops need to be rigged, and the rest you can jump, which is really good fun.
dar permiso de usted para buscar aquí. Tenemos una carta de introducción.
Immediately upon arrival at San Lucas, the team present themselves and their official documents to the Presidente. Many caves have considerable religious significance and are also believed to contain gold. The support of the Presidente is vital in overcoming the fears and superstitions of the villagers to intrusions by outsiders. With the help of the Presidente, a house is found to accommodate the team at the nominal rent of £10 or $15 per month. The team's first priority is to locate a cave known locally as Burovits, but surprisingly it takes 2 days to locate, even though the entrance is described as large enough to hold a house. While the efforts of the main team are devoted to finding the elusive Burovits, Dave Gill and Gail Searby decide to investigate an obvious rising halfway up the nearby hillside.
Yeah, managing. Just.
As they climb up the steep slabs of the dry riverbed, they are not optimistic. Although the cave entrance is obviously well known, the locals say that the cave itself is insignificant and does not extend very far.
Let's have a look up here, Gail. Could be
Yeah,
couple of
right. So
little
there might be
holes.
another way in up there.
some crosses up here. I don't know.
Oh, that's significant.
The cave is known locally as Vista Kok, and at first sight seems to confirm what they've been told.
There's an entrance here.
Gail Searby explains.
Vista Kok was the most unusual cave, with the very small entrance. Then just down below the entrance was the lake.
What does it look like around there?
Not too good, actually.
We really weren't at all excited when we went in there. We just thought we'd have a swim around the lake. It didn't seem possible that there could be a cave on the other side.
Hold on. Yeah, there seems to be an airspace on the other side. I'll have a duck through and have a look. Okay?
Okay.
Hey, it looks big, Gail. I'll just be right in line.
You're here, Dave.
Come on through. Looks like it's going, Gail.
Okay, just a second. Oh, wow, it's really big.
It looks it.
Great. Have you been far on that?
No.
Right, let's go. Okay.
Yep, let's go.
The first impression of the cave was the tremendous beauty of it. And you really didn't want to touch anything for fear of putting a fingerprint on the style or disturb the water to muddy it up, because it really was incredibly beautiful when we first went in.
What's this?
Yeah, that looks like a lake, but I don't think it's swims.
Oh, we have to swim again.
Looks that way, yeah. Deep, deep. We have to swim.
Dave Gill recalls his first reactions to their amazing discovery.
To us, it was completely sort of mind-boggling to walk along immense passages that you know that nobody's ever walked along before. Getting big.
We were incredibly excited when we first got through and we started wandering along the really big passageway right at the very beginning.
Hey, it's a good echo.
I was trying to control my excitement so that I wouldn't be disappointed later on. You know, all the way through the trip so far, up in San Cristobal, every cave would be a disappointment. And I kept thinking, well, this is the one, it's really going to go. And I didn't dare say too much because I kept thinking, well, what if it doesn't?
Really nice formations on it.
Yeah, they're all falling over.
Loads of style around here. Oh, really weird angles there.
wonder what's caused that. There's been a lot of collapse around here, hasn't there, by the looks of things.
Probably a landslide, millions.
Look at the angle of that.
That's really crazy. It's a really beautiful one. It's a fantastic angle.
Still going. The enticing thing about Vista Kok was this rumble of water that you could hear from a great distance. It was obviously a big river, and we at first thought that it was the major river, the main river from San Cristobal, and we could hear it from a great distance. It was a very low sound, but if you were very quiet, you could hear this rumble. Ginormous.
Never going to believe it when we get back to town about this.
Oh, I don't think the lads will believe it. They'll think we're kidding them.
It's really tremendous, isn't it?
Sound of that stream's coming closer.
It's quite a good roar now, but it's a big one. See if we'll go all the way to San Cristobal.
Well, it's a big dark mass ahead. I think we've come to the edge of a pitch.
Yeah, I'm throwing the ladder down. Please.
It was very enticing to see an enormous, great black space with a river at the bottom.
The tantalizing possibility for Dave and Gail is that the river they can hear rumbling in the distance is the river that can lead them back up to San Cristobal, over 5,000 feet above them.
How's it looking?
I think the ladder reaches, I'm not sure though.
Oh, good.
Just go a bit further down. Really muddy and horrible down here. Looks like I'm dropping down into a huge gallery, Dave. There's just enough ladder, it's going to be exactly right.
Right, okay.
Okay, Dave, give me slack, I'm down.
Good size of this place. Oops.
Oh, bloody hell. See the size of this place,
Don't know where the way on is. Could be round here. We try down in this gully. Caving's a little bit different than climbing. When you get to the top of the peak, you know you're at the top. But with caving, you never know what's round the corner. And you don't want the cave to finish. Is that light down there, Gail?
So no, it's getting narrower as we go down towards the water. It will probably be sumped.
Oh, surely
Have a
not.
look.
Can't be a sump.
Oh, it can't be in a passage this size, surely.
I think it is a sump, you know?
Do you reckon?
Yeah, it is. Can you see an airspace anywhere?
I don't know, there's just a possibility over there. There's a little archway, but there won't be much air.
Yeah. Well, try swimming across with this bit of choline line and have a look. See a bit of an airspace, Gail. Not much you want.
Are you going to be able to get through, do you think?
I don't know, I'm going to try though.
Is there anything on the inside?
Don't look much. Might be worth a try though. There's always that slim possibility that you might be able just to get through that sump. I mean, all you can see is water. It's the end of the cave. Now, if you can overcome that, well, that's brilliant. That's it. Looks big. Yeah. I think we're into something. Looks like it. Getting bigger again here, Gail.
Yeah. When you're exploring these new caves, it isn't always obvious which way you're going to go. You have to look at every possibility as you go past them.
So the river's coming out here.
It's usually a good indication where the water's coming out, that the passage could continue on up through there. So everything has to be looked at.
How's it looking, Gail?
Where the river's coming from.
Comes you along.
Yeah, we must have a minute.
Look like he's going.
Hey, Steve's here. No, it comes through a tiny crack in the roof.
two sides.
Look at the boulders.
Maybe the way on's up there with that boulder slope.
It's probably one of the most exciting caves I've ever been in that nobody had ever seen it before. It was completely, utterly new. It's like a totally different world. You almost felt you had to tiptoe through it in case you disturbed anything.
In a way, I suppose you felt that you were intruding upon something that you really wasn't supposed to be there. You again got a feeling that the cave belonged to you, and you didn't want to leave it. It's like it could be a sump.
It's like a sump to me. So if it doesn't finish here.
Could go on to the left there. Tell you what, just take this and I'll swim across and have a look. Got it?
Yeah, go on. Look at that one.
Not looking good.
Can you see under the archway?
Can't see an airspace anywhere. Blank walls all around.
Have a really good look under that arch.
In my opinion, there was no chance of even trying to get through it without a diving mask. But with reaching two sumps and managing to pass them, I had a secret feeling that it just might go.
Is that it then?
Looks like it. Must be something over here.
What is it?
You can feel the way on here, but it's deep underwater.
Many resurgences along here.
Spotted a hole still at the bottom of that scar. The black.
That scar over there.
Yeah. Just at
Let's
the
go.
bottom of it.
Come on.
While Dave and Gail had been making their discoveries in Vista Kok, the remainder of the team had located the entrance to Burovits. An altar at the cave entrance shows signs of recent attention. Candles have been burned in the last 24 hours and decorations have been put up.
Yeah, this one's fairly significant from the standpoint of a lot of water.
Steve Foster explains the religious significance of Burovits.
We learnt about the myth of Burovits when Guy was visiting the Presidente. Guy mentioned Burovits, at which point the two ladies that were there discussing something else started crossing themselves, and it was in fact a very religious cave for them. It's an interesting cave as at the bottom of this 60-metre ramp there are two passages. The left-hand passage supposedly led to the devil. The right-hand passage supposedly led to visit God. We'd been seen visiting the left-hand passage, and there was some worry in the town that we were in fact devil worshippers. It also turned out that if one stood in a sunbeam, one was going to be stricken with the curse of Burovits and would become ill. Halfway up the slope in the entrance to Burovits was a calcited-in Mayan urn containing water which dripped from the ceiling. Apparently, by drinking of this water, one could not get affected by the curse of Burovits.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Any draft?
yeah, it's draft, but really unstable.
Undoubtedly the most important cave entrance in the area, Burovits is blocked by a jumble of rocks, now populated only by bats. By now, the leads supplied by the local people are flowing fast and furious. Rio Salada is another promising cave further along the escarpment, the entrance of which is guarded by a beautiful and very deep lake.
All the climbing gear in there.
A 100 feet inside, Steve Foster climbs with the aid of expansion bolts to reach the only possible way on.
It became obvious during the aid climb that the cave was in fact very dry, very dusty. There appeared to be absolutely no airflow, and from the reaction of people sitting at the bottom, they seemed to be getting very tired and listless, appeared to indicate CO2 build-up.
Some bats flying around up here.
There are already free climbing possibilities.
One more bolt, I think.
We were also a little bit concerned because there were a lot of bats in the cave and it was very dry and very dusty, and it seemed a possible indication that the cave could possess histoplasmosis.
Okay, I'll just put the wedge in now.
Oh, good. Yeah, can you see over the edge, Steve?
Nearly. Just one step up and it closes down everywhere. Yeah, there's not much possibilities now.
Is there a tube behind you?
No. The bats are just circling around, they're not going anywhere. No, that's it, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks after the exploration of Burovits and Rio Salada, 5 members of the team and 4 of the film crew are struck down by histoplasmosis. In addition, they are also diagnosed as having typhoid. Suffering from shortage of breath, weakness and fever, the 6 most badly affected are flown to the American-British Caudry Hospital in Mexico City. Dave Gill explains the nature of histoplasmosis.
Histoplasmosis is a disease that can be picked up in caves which are fairly dry, inhabited by bats. For the most part, we're ignorant about the disease histoplasmosis. We don't know very much about it. We don't really know how serious it is. Well, we've realised now, of course, now we've got it.
I've been speaking to a doctor before I came out, and I knew that it was a fungal infection of the lungs that you got by breathing in where the bat guano was.
I think if you're fairly fit and strong, you've got a fairly good chance of survival. I would think if you're older and weak, you're going to die. We've heard cases of archaeologists in San Cristobal a few weeks ago that out of the 13 archaeologists that contacted the disease, only 2 of them survived.
I think it'll take a few weeks for me to get back to normal again, but I think when I do start recovering and regaining fitness, I will do so quite fast.
How does Gail feel about going back?
Well, I'd love to go back in and have another look at the end of Vista Kok.
What do you think your signal's going to be, Bob? Well, I'm not.
But the curse of Burovits ensures that Gail and Dave take no further part in the exploration of Vista Kok. 5 expedition members and 2 of the film crew are flown back to England for further treatment.
Okay. If I don't get through,
The challenge of Vista Kok is now taken up by the southern contingent of the expedition, with sump diving experience from their native Mendip Hills.
you'd be obliged.
With only a face mask for assistance, Bob Court decides to have a go at free diving the 3rd sump, believed to be impossible without breathing apparatus.
You're going to hold the line, are you?
Yeah.
With a safety line tied to his wrist, Bob approaches the sump. The operation depends upon perfect coordination between Bob and Darnie Bradshaw, who's holding the safety line. 3 tugs on the line will mean that Bob has got through to the other side. The margin for safety can be counted in seconds.
Yeah, okay. I'll keep it tight.
Yeah, it seems to go down deep.
Does that? How deep do you reckon?
About 4 feet, I should think.
Yeah?
Just keep a tight line for a second. I'm just going to go straight down to start with, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. There's a fair bit of dip on that.
Yeah. I don't know how far it's going to go. Yeah.
Yeah, what I said first of all, it goes down the slant about 4 foot, and I see the passing boring off after. I don't know what it's going to be. I haven't got a clue. Right, Dad, you give me a line and I've got to get through this time.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, I'll give you the 3 tugs, settling it through if I do.
Right.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Take care.
Here he goes.
Yeah, there's plenty of line, it should be alright.
The wind's going out.
It's fairly long.
Yeah. Jesus. Hang on. Stop. Yeah, he's struck. I think he's
Hang on.
through.
2, 3. It's through.
Yeah, there.
Great.
Yeah. Grand job.
Bob describes how he passed the sump.
The committing part of this sump was coming up the other side. On the 3rd attempt, I went deep and went up to the other side and did manage to get my head out, being prepared all the time to turn round and make a run for it back. There was a risk there. The risk seemed valid. There was enough airspace, and the gains were enormous.
Yeah.
Yeah, here he is.
Oh, you can feel him on the line. Yeah. Up. Way!
Hey!
Cracked it.
All right.
Yeah, we're through.
Is there passage going off?
Yeah, I'm near the stream.
Grand job.
Cracked it.
Well done.
It's 12 foot long, the sump.
Is it?
Yeah. Cool. It was a bit hit or miss, though.
Quite bad.
Bob's achievement in cracking Sump 3 meant that there was a very real chance of finding an extensive cave system, as Tony Jarrett explains.
We managed to explore and survey, I think it was just under 2 kilometres of passage. The stream passage closed up as we'd already suspected, but after climbing into high-level passages in the roof, Bob and Darnie managed to climb a flowstone cascade in a large chamber, and on we went. It was a large passage, beautiful. This went on for 400 metres, which at the present time is the end as far as we're concerned. This is exactly the sort of thing we'd come to Mexico to look for.
The survey shows 3 miles of passage explored, 1,000 feet of height gained from the entrance, and more than 10 possible ways on. The expedition is defeated by lack of time and illness, but the potential for the deepest and longest caves in the world remains enormous.